The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside by themselves and said to them on the way, "Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and scourged and crucified. He will be raised on the third day." Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee approached Jesus with her sons and did him homage, wishing to ask him for something. He said to her, "What do you wish?" She answered him, "Command that these 2 sons of mine sit, one at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom." Jesus said in reply, "You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the chalice that I am going to drink?" They said to him, "We can." He replied, "My chalice you will indeed drink, but to sit at my right and at my left, this is not mine to give, but is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at the 2 brothers, but Jesus summoned them and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just so, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." The Gospel of the Lord. Today is the memorial of St. Catherine Drexel. St. Catherine Drexel is kind of special to us because she's one of the few American saints from our nation's history. She was born in the middle of the 1800s, and she was well known in her age because she came from a very influential and a very wealthy family. She was a millionaire. Her father was the owner of a major banking empire that was actually international, and they lived in Philadelphia. And one of the things I love about the life of Catherine Drexel is actually the story of her family and of her father in particular. Her father was adamant that every day he and his family would attend daily mass. When they bought their mansion in Philadelphia, they dedicated it to St. Michael the Archangel. When he died, he told his daughters that if they didn't have children, all of his money would go to charity. So he took his faith very seriously, which I think is a great thing for us to learn from. I think sometimes when we think about sanctity, sometimes we just think about the simple and the poor. Sometimes when we think about people who are very wealthy and rich, we tend to give them a break on sanctity. But Catherine Drexel's father was very different. He understood that even though he was a millionaire, even though he was a hugely influential person in the culture, his primary obligation was still to God. And he owed everything to God. And he instilled that in his children. Catherine Drexel, after he died, she was in her 20s, and her sisters, they began to be major philanthropists in the country. And one of the things they got very passionate about was serving minorities in the United States. So they started establishing schools in many places that were dominated by Native Americans and African Americans. Catherine Drexel, she actually established the first Catholic university specifically for blacks. This was in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. So they had a great passion for that. But Catherine in particular, she was very passionate about this, and she wrote various bishops asking them to send priests and religious sisters to the schools and the missions that her and her sisters were funding and establishing. And famously, she wrote a letter to the Pope, and the Pope responded, "Why don't you become a missionary? Instead of asking for sisters to come, why don't you become a religious sister and found an order for these missions you're establishing?" And Catherine Drexel, the heir of millions and millions of dollars, she took the Pope seriously. And she decided to give away all of her fortune, which she inherited, and to become a religious sister. and found a religious order dedicating to serving Native Americans and African Americans. They say that when she became a sister, when she took her first vows, including the vow of poverty, they had her all dressed up for a wedding. She had a wedding dress on, she had a diamond necklace, she had very large, wealthy rings on her fingers. And when she entered the convent, she entered that way, and then she entered the convent, and she came out in nothing but a simple habit. Everything she had given away. It's beautiful. Really cool story. And I think it is a great reminder to us. I think especially in our own day, I'm edified by the example of Catherine's father. In our day, you ask many parents, what is your greatest goal for your child? Well, I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. I want them to be productive. That's not what Catherine's father would have said. I want my children to be saints. I want my children to be entirely dedicated to God, and I want them to understand that their duty to God is their primary obligation. Imagine if all Christian parents had that same mentality. And I'm edified by the example of Catherine giving everything away to serve God. In our age, there are many things that the church asks of us. And time again, sadly, it seems that Catholics are being less and less obedient to what the church is asking. And sometimes the church even lowers her expectations for people. I think that's the wrong strategy. I think we need to learn from St. Catherine Drexel. People are capable of surrendering their lives to God. People are capable of heroic charity and service. I think we would do well to remind ourselves of that.